Can you write what a woman would actually say, Miss Pritchard, or only what a man imagines she would say? The question came across a desk piled with shooting scripts and a typewriter ribbon stained with whiskey, and the man who asked it did not look up from the page he was reading. The Ministry of Information had taken over 3 floors of a Bloomsbury building in the autumn of 1940, and Catherine Pritchard, 28, late of a copywriting desk at a Cardiff advertising firm and lately of a small flat off Russell Square that she shared with her painter husband, had been given a typed letter saying she should report at 10 on Tuesday and ask for Mr. Buckley. The room behind her had 3 desks, 2 of which were occupied, and the men at them were pretending not to listen. Both? Catherine said. Depending on the woman and the man. Buckley looked up. He was about 45, no longer trim, with the careful weariness of a writer who had been making a living from his typewriter since the last war and had now been told it would not be his last war after all. There were patches of grey in his hair that had not been there the year before, and a wedding ring on his left hand that he did not bother to hide. They told me Welsh, he said. My mother's family. I was raised in Penarth. Good. We need a woman who can hear the difference between a Welsh mother and a Bethnal Green mother and a vicar's daughter in Dorset. The man we had before you couldn't, and the man before him wrote every woman as if she were his own dreadful aunt. The pay is £4.10 a week. The work is what we are now obliged to call slop. Slop? Women's dialogue. Comfort scenes. The bit where the wife sees her husband off at the gate and what she says when the door is shut behind her. The men in this office have been writing slop for 3 years, and most of them write it as if women only speak when men have decided they should. We are losing audiences in the cinemas because of it. The minister has decided this is an oversight. He took a cigarette from a tin, did not light it. Do you want the job? Yes. You will not be popular with everyone in this office. Sit at the desk by the window. Mr. Hilliard at the door will tell you which scripts to begin with. I write the films we make. You write the women in them. We will argue. Do not take it personally and do not give in. Catherine took the desk by the window. The man at the door, Hilliard, did not greet her. The other man, who had a moustache and looked younger than he was, said, If you want tea, there's a kettle in the cupboard. The cup with the chip is mine. She found a cup without a chip. She did not make tea. She opened the script Hilliard had pushed across to her, a 15-minute short to be shown before the main feature, titled provisionally 2 Sisters, and read it through twice. It was about 2 sisters in Devon who had taken their late father's fishing boat across the channel during the recent evacuation at Dunkirk and brought back 4 soldiers. The story was real, or near real. The ministry's research department had collected accounts from the small vessel's pool. The boat had existed, the sisters had existed. What was on the page in front of her, however, was a script in which 2 women rowed 40 miles and barely spoke, except once, when the elder sister said to the younger, We must, mustn't we? It was a line a man would write because a man had never had a sister. She marked the script with a pencil. She wrote, in the margin beside the line, 4 words she would later be embarrassed to have written so quickly. Lily says, be quick. At 11 the next morning, Buckley read what she had done with the sisters' scenes and said nothing for a long time. The other men were out at a studio in Denham. The room was hers and his. You changed her name, he said at last. The other one was wrong. A girl in a fishing village would not be called Mary in 1940. Her mother would have called her Lily after the song. You gave her a stutter. Her father stuttered in the file. It runs in families. It makes her brave. And the line on page 7. Which line? You crossed out, we must, mustn't we? And wrote, if Daddy's boat goes empty, he won't forgive us, even dead. Yes. That is a much better line than mine. Catherine felt something cold and clear move through her and recognized it as pleasure. She had heard editors give her praise before, but only ever about a sentence, never about a thought. Buckley was looking at her now with an attention that had nothing flirtatious in it at all, and that was somehow more unsettling. Do that to the whole picture, he said. I will fight you on 3 lines because I have to, and you will win 2 of them because you should. Then we will both stop talking, and the script will go to Denham. She did it to the whole picture. They fought on 5 lines. She won 3. The script went to Denham. The autumn deepened. The raids came every night now, and the office in Bloomsbury had a basement shelter where the writers carried their pages in cardboard boxes and worked by hurricane lamp when the lights failed, which was often. Catherine learned the rhythm of it. She learned which sirens meant the East End and which meant the docks, and she learned to write through the all clear without stopping, because if she stopped the sentence, she had been building would be gone. Ellis, her husband, did not write through the raids. He painted by day in a studio above a chemist's in Camden, slept in the underground at Tottenham Court Road on the worst nights, and on the better ones came home to the flat at midnight, smelling of turpentine and pubs, and asked her, with a kindness that had always struck her as a little distant, what she had written that day. "A boat scene," she said one night in November. "A scene where a woman tells her husband to come home alive without asking him to. Did your Mr. Buckley like it?" "He kept it as I wrote it." "Good." Ellis lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. "I sold a painting today. The dealer in Cork Street took the harbour scene for 30 guineas. I owe the off-licence 22 of it, so we are nearly even." She did not answer. She lay listening to him fall asleep, and she thought, not for the first time, that the way she felt about her work and the way she felt about her marriage were beginning to occupy different rooms in her. By December, the picture was at the rough-cut stage and going wrong. The studio's head of pictures, a man named Swain, whom Buckley loathed and Catherine would meet only twice, had decided that two sisters needed an American. The Americans, Swain explained over the telephone in a tone audible from the next desk, were not yet in the war, and the ministry wanted them in the war, and a film that could be sold to American distributors would do more good than a film that could not. Therefore, there would be an American flyer in the picture, played by an actor whose name was about to be made, and he would be one of the 4 soldiers in the boat, and he would have a romance with the elder sister. "They want me to write him," Buckley said to Catherine, putting the receiver down. "They want him to make a speech about democracy." "Don't write the speech," she said. "Write him so he can't make the speech. Write him so he tries and fails, and the younger sister finishes it for him. The younger sister has a stutter. That is why she finishes it." Buckley looked at her, and she saw in his face a thing she had not yet been ready to see, which was that he had begun to depend on her in a way that had little to do with the office and a great deal to do with the fact that he was 45 and his wife had been in the country since the start of the Blitz, and the bed-in, his rented room in Bedford Square, was cold every night. She also saw that he knew she had seen it, and that he was setting it down between them carefully, the way a man sets down a glass he must not break. "Write the scene," he said. She wrote it. The American tried to speak about freedom and could not, because the boat was rolling and he was seasick, and the elder sister handed him a tin mug for the seasickness, and the younger sister, watching her sister, said the sentence he had been trying to say in 3 pieces because of the stutter, and in her own words, which were not freedom but neighbour. It was the best scene Catherine had written. When Buckley read it, he put the script down and went to the window and stood with his back to her for a long minute. "My wife is in Berkshire," he said, still not turning. "She has been in Berkshire since September. We were never going to do well in a war, she and I. I'm telling you because I would prefer to tell you in this room than in any other room. I am not asking anything of you." "I know," Catherine said. "Good." He turned then. His face was tired and entirely undefended. "Then we'll go and watch them shoot the scene tomorrow." They watched them shoot the scene at Denham on a Friday in January. The actor playing the American was nervous and kept overdoing his line about freedom. The director cut him off 3 times, and on the 4th take, very quietly, Buckley walked over and said something to the actress playing the younger sister, who nodded once and went back to her place. Catherine did not hear what he said. The take after that was the one that went into the picture. When the cameras stopped, the actress looked across the set at Catherine and gave her a small, deliberate nod, woman to woman, which would later strike Catherine as the moment she became, properly, a writer. The picture opened in March. It was not a hit. The war moved faster than pictures could, but the Daily Telegraph said the dialogue between the sisters had a plainness that struck deeper than poetry, and Buckley brought the cutting in and laid it on her desk without speaking. Hilliard, who had stopped pretending not to like her in February, said, "That'll teach you to be Welsh on us, then." The man with the moustache, who had been called up in December, was no longer at his desk. His desk had been given to a new woman writer Buckley had hired on Catherine's recommendation, a vicar's daughter from Dorset who could hear a Bethnal Green vowel at 50 paces. In April, the ministry commissioned a second picture, this one about a munitions factory in Birmingham, and Catherine was given a credit. She had never been given a credit before. Ellis read it in the trade press and came home with a bottle of something to celebrate and a piece of news he had been holding for a week, which was that he had been offered a war artist post in Egypt and had accepted it. He would leave in May. He did not ask her to come. He asked her, instead, with a tenderness she would think about for the rest of her life, whether she wanted him to come back to a marriage or to a friendship, and she was so grateful to him for asking it in those words that she could not, for a long minute, answer. "A friendship," she said at last. "Yes," he said. "I thought so. We've been kinder than we knew, you and I. Don't be sad about it." She was not sad. She was something else, which she did not have a name for yet, but which felt very like the relief of a sentence put down right. Ellis sailed for Egypt at the end of May. The flat off Russell Square was hers alone, and she gave half the rent to a younger writer from the Dorset desk who was sleeping on a cousin's floor and needed a room. The munitions picture was made. The picture after that was about a Welsh mining village whose women had taken over the colliery offices, and Buckley let her write it almost alone and stood at her window in the evenings while she finished pages, with his coat on, smoking, saying very little and refusing the tea she offered him. He never came across the room. One evening in November, almost a year to the day from her first morning at the desk, she finished a page and looked up to find him watching her with the expression of a man who has just understood something he had been refusing to understand. He set the cup down on her desk. "I am married, Miss Pritchard," he said. "I am going to remain married because the woman I married is in Berkshire keeping a house I have not earned, and because in this war a man does not leave a good woman because he has discovered another. I am telling you this because I do not want you to wait. I want you to write and to be paid and to take the credit and to find, in time, a man who is not me. I am telling you because what I feel for you would be very easy to mistake for something I am allowed to act on, and I am not allowed." She had stood up from the desk without realizing. The window behind her showed a sky the colour of pewter and a barrage balloon turning slowly above Bedford Square, and she heard her own voice, steadier than she expected, say, "I know that, Tom. I have known it for months. Then there is nothing for us to do but the work." "No," she said, "there isn't." He put on his hat. He stopped at the door. "You are the best writer in this office," he said, "including me. I should have said it sooner." The door closed. She sat down at her desk and did not, for a moment, write anything. Then she pulled a fresh page into the typewriter and began the scene she had been turning over all afternoon, a scene between two women in a mining village kitchen, one telling the other that her son had not come home from North Africa, and when she found the right line, which was not a line about grief at all, but a line about the kettle on the hob and how it had to be moved before it boiled dry, she knew that she had become, somewhere in the last 12 months, the writer she had been pretending to be on the day Buckley first asked her if she could hear what a woman would actually say. The picture went into production in the spring of 1942. By then, Catherine had written 3 more, and her name was on all of them, and the woman from Dorset had been promoted to the desk Hilliard had once kept locked. The flat off Russell Square smelled of typewriter oil and of the small pot of basil she kept on the window, and on the kitchen wall hung a single watercolour, a harbour scene, painted before the war by a man she had once been married to, and below it a typed sheet with a paragraph of dialogue she had written and was particularly proud of, and which she read sometimes in the morning before she went to the office, the way another woman might say a prayer. She did not see Tom Buckley after the war, because he died in Berkshire in the winter of 1945, of a heart that had been giving him notice since 1941 and that nobody, including his wife, had known about. She heard of it in a telegram passed across her desk by the woman from Dorset, and she read it standing and went home at lunchtime and did not return that day. But the next morning she was at her desk before 9, and the woman from Dorset said nothing and brought her tea without a chip in the cup, and Catherine Pritchard, 33, senior writer at a ministry that would not exist by Christmas, picked up a pencil and began to mark a page. The line she crossed out was a man's line. The line she wrote in its place was a woman's. She knew, as she wrote it, that it was a better line. She knew that it would not save the world. She knew, also, that Tom Buckley would have read it and put the script down and said nothing for a long minute, and that this was the form, for her, that being loved had taken, and that it had been enough.